All right, I'm going to make a little video on properly dressing this type of shielded wire for using inside of your amplifier design. I cut a smallish piece here just so it's easier to manage for this video, but I'm actually going to use this in an amp for a short run. So you're going to dress the two ends slightly in a different way, because one end is going to be grounding, which gives you the shield of the whole wire. The other end will not be grounded. You could ground both ends, but then you would have the potential for a ground loop. So that's why only one end is grounded. So on the end that you are not going to ground, you're going to want to cut the outside insulation off about 1 inch in, and I use an X-Acto knife for that, and I just simply kind of roll the wire under the knife, and you can see where it's broken a little bit through the insulation, and then I just kind of finish it off. And I'll pull this off so you see the shielding. Now on this end, I'm going to pull the shielding back, just push it down and kind of wad it up and then twist it, so that then I can take my clippers and clip that off and get as much of that off as I can. So it looks like that. And then while I'm on this end, I'll go ahead and strip off about that much of the wire, which looks like about 1/4 inch. So that's the end that won't be grounded. On the other end here, I'm going to take the insulation off back about 1.5 inches. So sort of more than you might think. And I'm going to do the same thing. I kind of roll it under the knife on the bench top. You don't want to do it too hard because you'll actually cut through the shielding. And on this end, we want the shielding, that braided shielding. So I'm doing the same thing on this end, except taking off a little bit more. Like I said, about 1.5 inches. And it's a little stubborn. If it is stubborn, you can slice it long ways here to loosen it up so that it's easier to pull off. There we go. So I pulled that off. We see our shielding. Now, this is where it's going to differ from the other side quite a bit. I use this tool, which is just a sharp point, and I'll use it to open up the braid here so I can see the center wire. See, like that. And then I'll sort of bend the wire back and use some small needle nose pliers to pull the center wire out from the braided shielding. So it should look like that. Then I kind of twist the shielding into its own wire here. Like that. And then I'll go ahead and take the center wire and strip off about 1/4 inch, like I did on the other end So we have something that looks like this now. Okay, at this point, we want to tin our wire, our connecting wires. So I take my soldering iron and just add a little solder onto the exposed wire there, like so. And then on the other end, I'll do the same thing here. And on the braided shielding that we've twisted together, and that will really hold this wire together. Okay, next step, we are going to add our heat shrink tubing. So for this side that we are not grounding, we simply slip this piece of heat shrink tubing over because we want to cover this area where the braided shielding is exposed, because we don't want that grounding out against something that has voltage on it or has guitar signal on it, because it will ground it out and then your amp won't work. So I take a heat gun, and that side should look like that. Now the other side, we're going to take a piece of heat shrink tubing and fit it over the naked ground braided shield here. So that looks like that. And then we're going to take a larger diameter piece of heat shrink tubing, because we want to cover this area where we can see the braided shielding. Again, we don't want that exposed to ground out against something. So it should look like that. Okay, and we're pretty much done. So your wire should look like this. So, and I like to use a black heat shrink for the ground just so I remember, because once you get it dressed, sometimes you can get confused. So I know that the white insulation is my center conductor, my signal path, and the black is connected to the braided shielding throughout the wire that protects this wire from any interference. And that's that.